So when I'm cutting this rope, this gold rope, it's a really thick, stiff line of rope. Again, got this, I believe, from Dollar General, maybe Michael's, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And I mean, you could probably find something similar, if not this exact brand. I don't have the label for it anymore. But you could probably find this on Amazon or at Michael's, something like this that's sturdy. And you see how it kind of holds the curl? You want something sturdy like that because it's going to help you when you're building the lasso of truth. So what I do for the lasso of truth is I literally just, it's kind of easy. You can see I created 2 already, but all I do is pull this off and let it, and keep, maintain its shape, right? So that kind of creates the lasso for you. So, and I usually do 3 rounds. What we're going to do with this is you want to cut it a little long just so that you can have room to trim the edges if you need to. But what we do is we put a little bit of hot glue on the ends, right, so that it doesn't unravel while a client or a customer is wearing them. And then I take a small section of the rope and untwist it. So I cut a small piece and untwist it, because there's 2 here, right? And I use this to make a knot around the top of the lasso of truth. And then I take this and kind of clean up the ends and make sure they're the length that I want, and attach them with a hot glue gun on the outside of the shoe. I mentioned in the previous video that we're going to line the entire outside of the sole with this rope as well. And I start on the outside of the shoe. So the lasso of truth is going to be right here. The lasso part is going to be right up here. So what I do when I kind of eyeball the measurement, do a rough measurement, and then cut extra just in case I, miss the mark there. And this rope is going to come up and attach to the lasso part. So I want to leave a lot of extra, just loose measurement there of the rope. And I start right here at this point. It's, in my experience, like I said, I've made 6 or 7 pairs of these, and this is the best place to not only extend the rope to the lasso, but merge with the rope as it comes back around the other side. So just to measure, I already have 2 pre-cut pieces, but I kind of just eyeball it. Go through and kind of put it up against the sole of the shoe, wrap it around, see that effect that it's going to have, wrap it around and get kind of a loose measurement of what I'll need. And kind of eyeball this, wrap it around. It also goes all the way down the heel. So I measure this, and then it goes around the bottom heel, and I measure that, and we're back now around to where that connection's going to be with the ends before it goes up into the lasso. So that's how I measure. I've already have 2 pre-cut strands, and it'll be different, right? Depending upon what pair of shoe you use, the measurement will be different. So I didn't see the point in including actual measurements with this particular project. So I'm going to pause and start a video strictly on how to configure these 2 lassos, and then we'll get started on the rope around the sole of the shoe. Okay, so I've created 1 lasso so that you can see what it looks like. I like to have 3 rings just to give it a little dimension. 4 I think would be too much, but you can see that I used a small thin part. I split the rope into 2 pieces and cut enough so that I can have the ability to make a really tight knot, and then just trim off the edges. More in this case is better. And then I put glue on the tips of the lasso so that it doesn't unravel once it's placed on the shoe. I'll show you how to make this. what you'll need is your rope for the lasso, one probably about 4 inches, 5 inches long of the split. And it's great because if you're making two, you can just measure them equally, pull the rope apart, and then you have 2 strands, which is great. And I use a little dish for dipping the ends of the lasso to glue them and tighten them. But you could use a laminate sheet or the outside of a Ziploc bag. Like, you could really use anything. I just used this because it was handy. So now that I have one, right, make one, kind of gauge off of the side of the shoe how big you want it, right? Because this is where it's going to go. So it's going to look like that once it's hanging off the shoe. So I made one that I thought was a decent size. So now I have to try to use that to mimic the size for the next shoe. So what I'm going to do is just kind of work this, right? I'm going to put this up here so you can see it, what I'm looking at. And we're just going to tighten the loop a little bit, and it looks almost like there's 3 layers. So I'm going to go in small first and then wrap my loop around the second time a little bit bigger, and then wrap around a third time a little bit bigger than that. So they're about the same size, right? They're about similar sizes, and I still have excess. That's what we want. We want a little bit of excess so that we can trim where we need to. So then what I do, and this takes a little bit of doing sometimes, and you might have to adjust the rings on the lasso, but I'm taking this gold separated rope, and I'm just going to tie a knot, like a normal knot, at the top. And I want to try to get towards the back of the lasso. So what I do is tighten it, make sure it's really tight, just a simple knot in the back, and keep it at a single knot for now. And that way we can play with the positioning of the rope, right? And I want the ends to point downward, right? I don't want this one like this, so I'm going to twist it a little bit within the knot. And once I get it to a position that I'm comfortable with, I flip it over and finish tying that second knot. And I make it super, 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 super tight. And it's okay if this one gets frayed on the edges, you know, like this is starting to unravel on the edges. That's actually kind of cute. But we're going to put a little bit of hot glue right here to keep the knot intact, and then move on to a couple other phases. And while they're drying, I'll snip this. So I'm going to keep this. I'm comfortable with this. I like the way it looks. It's similar in size. We still have yet to trim the edges, or the ends of the lasso, but I like the shape of this lasso. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it back on its side again, on its front, and just use any kind of craft gun. Mine's been around for probably 20 years and it's still kicking. It's Shore Bonder, and I believe I got this from Michael's. I mean, I'm literally talking probably 20 years ago, and it's still in good shape. Never a problem with it. And just kind of putting it all around that knot. Sorry if you couldn't see that. Just putting it all around the knot, really little piece, you know, just a little bit of glue. It goes a long way. And I just do that so that the knot doesn't come undone. So while that's drying, what I then do is flip it back around and take a look at my ends of the rope. This one has it's actually about the same distance, maybe a little bit longer. This one I definitely want to trim a bit. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to trim on an angle. I'm going to trim like that. See how it's kind of on an angle, right? And this helps it from, ooh, that was hot still. This helps it from This helps it from separating the two sides of the rope. So I've got this one. Let's see how much I need to cut off here. Probably about here I'd be comfortable with. I cut it on an angle. I think that looks good. I think that looks good. And we still have these little ties that we have to trim as well. But before I do that, I'm gonna continue to let the back of this knot dry. I might actually have to put more on there. It's just trial and error. Do what makes you comfortable. If you think you need more glue, have at it. You just want to keep in mind not too much bulk on this because it's got to attach to the shoe right at this knot. So for sealing the ends of the lasso, I do 1 dot from my glue gun. Before it hardens, I take the end of the lasso and I twirl it in the direction of the rope, right? And it's okay if I go up about maybe half an inch. I go up about a half an inch and get that coated, and I'm still going to trim it even a little bit more, okay? And then I'm gonna switch up to the other side. Sometimes I put another glue spot down so that I know it's not hardened and difficult to work with. And when you work with semi-hardened hot glue, it can leave a cloudy residue if you don't do it when it's fresh. So I just kind of twirl it around, and that's gonna seal the end of that even after I trim a little bit off. So while they're drying, what I'll do is go into that back knot, trim, and trim. And my knot is secure on the back, and my lasso is looking good. I'm gonna kind of play with this a little bit more to get the shape of the lasso that I want. There have been even times where I've taken a tiny bit of glue and even attached a little bit right here just to keep it curved. Like you can actually see it happening on its own with this one. And that just helps it maintain its shape, right? It should lay pretty flat. Like these haven't moved too much. Should lay pretty flat, pretty flat. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next video where I will show you how to attach the rope around the sole of the shoe.